Hi everyone and welcome to Bad Car Symptoms. In this video we'll show you some of the most common symptoms of a bad ignition switch on your car. The ignition switch is a master electrical switch on your car that turns on the main power to the car's accessories, the car's computer, the starter and other devices. When it becomes faulty, mostly due to physical damage or material fatigue, it can be a serious problem, as you'll see later in the video. Also, you must know that we'll be talking about the electrical part of the ignition switch, which is a type of rotary switch, not the mechanical part of it, which is the part where you push the key in the lock and turn the mechanism. It is very important to make a difference between these two in order to properly solve the problem. So, stay tuned. Bad car symptoms. The car occasionally does not crank. The first telltale sign of a bad ignition switch is that when you turn the key there is no crank, but the next time you try everything works as normal. At first this problem may occur in every, let's say 100 cranks, but it gets worse over time as the contacts within the ignition switch start failing more and more. There is no crank at all. As the problem gets worse, the car may not crank at all, even after several turns of the ignition switch. Simply you turn the key and nothing happens. Also, it may suddenly want to crank after a couple of turns. It is very important in this phase to make a good diagnosis of the problem in order to eliminate any other causes that have similar symptoms, like a bad starter, a bad relay, a simple burnt out fuse, or else. You turn the ignition key and there is no power. Besides cranking, you may also experience that when you turn the ignition key, absolutely nothing happens. So you turn the key and there is no power, no dashboard lights appearing, no fuel pump buzzing, or else. All of this much resembles a bad battery problem in this phase. The car keeps running when you turn off the ignition. One more symptom that is a bit frightening is that you turn off the ignition key and the engine continues running. In some cases, you can even pull out the key and the engine will still continue running. The engine suddenly cuts off. The final and perhaps most dramatic symptom of a bad ignition switch is a sudden and total cutoff of the power supply. It can happen when you start the car, but much worse, it can suddenly happen during driving, making this phase of the problem very dangerous. In this case, the ignition switch has totally failed, it is totally damaged, and it's best to not drive the car at all. The best time to make an inspection of the ignition switch problem is when the car occasionally doesn't want to crank. Again, it is very important to make a good diagnosis of the problem, since things like bad starter brushes, a bad starter solenoid, bad contacts, a bad relay, and else have almost the same symptoms. Once you make the proper diagnosis and you conclude that it is in fact the problem, replace the ignition switch as soon as possible, as all of this is in fact a matter of safety. So that's it for this time. We hope the video helps. Please like and subscribe. It's a huge help for what we're doing. Thanks for watching and thanks for your time.